There's a quiet moment when a woman looks at herself in the mirror and truly sees beyond the expectations, the judgments, the wounds that once defined her. It is in that silence she begins to untangle the threads of pain, stitch together the fragments of her heart, and reclaim what was lost to fear, doubt, and hurt. Healing is not loud. It is not flashy. It does not demand attention. Yet it transforms her in ways the world cannot measure. And something remarkable happens. She becomes unreachable. Not in distance, not in arrogance, not in isolation, but in essence. Her energy, her presence, her mind, they are no longer available for manipulation, for expectation, for toxicity. She moves through life like water through stone fluid, unstoppable, untouchable. And in that moment, she becomes her own universe, infinite and free. Self-healing is not a process that occurs overnight. It is not a fleeting decision or a simple act of will. It is a journey that demands courage, patience, and an unwavering commitment to oneself. When a woman chooses to heal, she begins by facing the truth of her own pain. She examines the moments that hurt, the words that cut, and the betrayals that fractured her trust. This confrontation is not easy. It requires looking directly into the shadows she once avoided, the memories she tried to bury, and the emotions she had long denied. She learns to acknowledge her suffering without letting it define her, to embrace the vulnerability that once felt like weakness and transform it into strength. Each tear shed, each fear confronted, each memory revisited becomes a step toward reclaiming her power, piece by piece, until she stands more whole than before. Healing involves the reclamation of energy that was once scattered or stolen. When a woman has been hurt, she often gives pieces of herself away without realizing it, through codependent relationships, through compromise, through silence when she should have spoken. In the act of healing, she begins to retrieve these fragments, to take back her voice, her time, and her attention. She learns to recognize what drains her spirit and what nourishes it. She sets boundaries, not as punishment to the world, but as acts of self-respect. This reclamation transforms her interactions with life itself. She no longer approaches situations with desperation or need. She approaches them with choice. She begins to understand that her energy is sacred, that the essence of her being is not for anyone else to control. The realization that she can be whole without external validation is revolutionary in its quiet power. Part of self-healing is understanding the lessons embedded in pain. Each scar, visible or invisible, carries a story of survival, resilience, and insight. A healed woman no longer sees her past as a series of failures or injustices. She begins to see it as a map, a guide that points her toward deeper understanding of herself and the world. The act of reflection brings clarity. She learns why she reacted the way she did, why she allowed herself to be treated poorly, and what she must do to prevent the same cycles from repeating. This understanding does not breed resentment or bitterness, it breeds wisdom. It allows her to move forward with intention rather than fear, to engage with life from a place of insight rather than reaction. Her past, once a burden, becomes a foundation upon which she builds strength and grace. Self-healing also requires a radical kind of self-compassion. Society often teaches women to prioritize others, to sacrifice their needs for the comfort or approval of those around them. In healing, she learns to reverse this paradigm. She treats herself with the patience, kindness, and understanding that she might have reserved for others. She allows herself to rest when she is weary, to grieve when she is hurt, and to celebrate her victories, no matter how small. This practice of self-compassion nurtures her inner landscape, making it fertile ground for growth, creativity, and joy. It teaches her that being gentle with herself is not indulgence, but necessity, that her well-being is not negotiable. By cultivating this inner care, she builds an unshakable foundation that supports every decision, every action, and every boundary she sets. A profound effect of self-healing is the shift in perception it brings. The world may remain unchanged, full of challenges, disappointments, and pain, but her experience of it transforms entirely. She moves with a sense of quiet authority, an understanding that she is no longer at the mercy of circumstance or the judgments of others. Her presence becomes magnetic, not because she demands attention, but because she emanates integrity, confidence, and calm. People notice it. Some are drawn to it, seeking to bask in the stability she radiates. Others may attempt to breach it, only to find that she is no longer accessible in the way she once was. Her mind, her heart, her spirit, once vulnerable, exposed, and negotiable, now hold a sacred autonomy. This is the unseen power of healing. It makes her untouchable not in ego, but in essence. Healing transforms her relationship with herself in ways that ripple outward into every facet of life. Decisions that were once colored by fear or insecurity are now guided by clarity and discernment. She recognizes patterns that do not serve her and has the courage to step away from them. She approaches love, work, and friendship with intentionality, choosing connections that uplift rather than diminish. The act of healing is a reclamation of authority over her own life. It allows her to engage with the world fully, yet without attachment to approval or outcome. Her independence is not defiance. It is the natural result of restoring herself to wholeness, of recognizing that her value is inherent and unshakable. In this state, she is no longer reachable in the ways that once left her vulnerable, because she has become the steward of her own being, and no one can take that away from her. When a woman heals herself, one of the most profound transformations she experiences is emotional independence. This is not merely the absence of pain or the act of moving on from past wounds. It is the complete reclamation of her emotional sovereignty. She stops seeking validation from external sources, whether from relationships, society, or even fleeting achievements. The approval she once craved from others, the reassurance she sought in words and gestures, becomes unnecessary because she has discovered a deeper, unwavering truth. Her value exists independently of anyone else's recognition. Emotional independence is not built overnight. It is cultivated through persistent introspection, self-reflection, and conscious choices that prioritize her inner stability over external approval. It is a revolution in thought and feeling, a shift from dependence to self-sufficiency that quietly but radically reshapes the way she navigates her world. This independence begins with an honest confrontation of her own emotions. She learns to identify what she truly feels without judgment or suppression. Anger, sadness, fear, joy, and hope are all acknowledged as valid aspects of her human experience. In recognizing these emotions as her own, she takes full responsibility for them. No longer does she allow her mood or self-worth to be dictated by the actions, opinions, or expectations of others. When someone criticizes her, she may consider the perspective, but she does not internalize it as a reflection of her value. When others withdraw love or attention, she experiences the disappointment but does not collapse under it. Emotional independence teaches her to distinguish between external circumstances and her inner truth, allowing her to remain centered even amidst chaos. A critical aspect of emotional independence is the dissolution of codependency. In relationships, it is common to unconsciously surrender one's emotions, decisions, and self-respect in exchange for love, approval, or security. Healing helps her recognize these patterns and break free from them. She begins to engage with others not out of need, fear, or obligation, but from choice and mutual respect. She no longer measures her worth by the intensity of someone else's affection or the consistency of their attention. The dependency that once made her vulnerable, anxious, or desperate slowly dissolves, leaving space for genuine, balanced connections. She learns to love and support others without losing herself, understanding that her emotional equilibrium is her own responsibility and cannot be outsourced. Emotional independence also reshapes how she experiences failure and disappointment. In the past, she may have equated setbacks with personal inadequacy or feared that mistakes would make her unworthy of care. Healing rewires this perception. She comes to see mistakes as natural elements of growth and setbacks as opportunities for learning rather than verdicts on her value. Her self-esteem is no longer contingent upon success, recognition, or external reward. By cultivating an internal foundation of confidence and self-respect, she builds resilience that protects her from the highs and lows of external validation. This resilience is subtle yet powerful. It is the kind of inner strength that cannot be shaken by the opinions or actions of others, for it arises from a secure understanding of her own worth. Another consequence of emotional independence is the ability to establish and maintain boundaries with clarity and conviction. A healed woman understands that her emotions, time, and energy are precious. She no longer tolerates disrespect, manipulation, or emotional exploitation. These boundaries are not walls of isolation. They are declarations of self-respect, signals that she values her own well-being above the compulsion to please or appease. Emotional independence allows her to act in alignment with her principles, to say no without guilt, and to protect her inner life from unnecessary interference. In doing so, she cultivates an environment where relationships are healthier, interactions are more authentic, and her emotional energy is preserved for what truly matters. Furthermore, emotional independence fosters a profound sense of freedom. She is no longer tethered to the expectations, judgments, or emotional fluctuations of others. Her choices are guided by her values, her desires, and her intuition, rather than by fear of rejection or the need for approval. This freedom allows her to pursue her passions, dreams, and personal growth without hesitation. She can express herself authentically, speak her truth without fear, and embrace her individuality fully. Emotional independence transforms her presence in the world. She is no longer reactive or accommodating out of insecurity, but proactive and intentional out of self-awareness. Her calm confidence becomes magnetic, drawing respect and admiration without demanding it. Ultimately, emotional independence represents a form of self-mastery. It is the ability to feel deeply, respond consciously, and live authentically without reliance on external validation. It is the internalization of a truth many spend a lifetime searching for, that her worth, her strength, and her emotional equilibrium are hers alone. Through healing, she becomes not only resilient but untouchable in a profound sense. People may attempt to influence her, test her boundaries, or provoke her emotions, but she remains centered, guided by her internal compass. Emotional independence is liberation, and it is a declaration that once a woman heals, she operates from a space of unassailable self-possession, making her presence both powerful and beautifully unreachable. When a woman heals herself, one of the most profound changes she undergoes is in the way she perceives and enforces boundaries. Before healing, boundaries can often be blurred or non-existent, shaped by fear, guilt, or the desire to please others. She may have allowed herself to be manipulated, overextended, or diminished in ways that left her feeling fragmented and depleted. Healing begins with the recognition that her energy, time, and emotions are valuable and finite. She understands that every interaction, every relationship, and every commitment has the potential to either nourish or drain her, and it is her responsibility to discern between the two. This recognition is not born of arrogance or selfishness. It is born of self-respect and self-preservation. It is the realization that in protecting her own well-being, she is also fostering healthier, more authentic connections with others. As she embraces this understanding, she begins to redefine her relationship with the people and situations around her. The dynamics that once seemed necessary, sacrificing her needs for approval, tolerating disrespect, or suppressing her feelings to maintain peace, no longer hold power over her. She recognizes the patterns that once kept her trapped, whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or family ties, and she makes deliberate choices to alter or release them. This process is often gradual, requiring patience, reflection, and the courage to confront uncomfortable truths. But each boundary she establishes becomes a testament to her growth and an assertion of her autonomy. She learns that saying no is not rejection, it is an affirmation of her worth and a means of protecting her inner life from unnecessary harm. In setting boundaries, a healed woman also becomes increasingly attuned to the intentions and energies of those around her. She learns to read subtle cues, to sense when a person or situation may be harmful or draining, and to act preemptively to protect herself. This sensitivity does not make her fearful or isolated. Instead, it cultivates discernment and wisdom. She approaches relationships with intentionality, choosing engagement that is mutually respectful, nourishing, and balanced. The boundaries she establishes serve as both shield and guide, ensuring that her emotional and physical energy is invested in connections that align with her values and support her growth. In this way, boundaries are not limitations, but frameworks for empowerment, enabling her to navigate life with clarity and integrity. The act of boundary setting also transforms the way she experiences conflict and confrontation. Before healing, disagreements might have triggered anxiety, self-doubt, or a tendency to appease others at the expense of her own needs. With clearly defined boundaries, she approaches conflict from a place of strength rather than fear. She can assert her needs and values without aggression, manipulation, or compromise of self-respect. She understands that being firm does not equate to being unkind, and that protecting her well-being is not a betrayal of others. This shift allows her to engage with the world authentically, without the constant internal negotiation that once left her exhausted or compromised. She becomes capable of maintaining both compassion and firmness, empathy and protection in equal measure. Boundaries also have a profound impact on her mental and emotional health. By controlling what she allows into her inner world, whether it be words, actions, or energies, she reduces the influence of toxicity, negativity, and unnecessary stress. She no longer internalizes criticism, blame, or manipulation because she has cultivated a sanctuary within herself that is impermeable to unwarranted intrusion. This sense of safety fosters confidence, clarity, and a calm, grounded presence. Her life becomes less about reacting to the chaos of others and more about responding with intentionality and purpose. Emotional resilience grows naturally from the consistent enforcement of these boundaries, creating a sense of inner stability that cannot easily be shaken. As she continues to uphold her boundaries, she experiences a profound shift in her relationships and social interactions. People begin to treat her differently, not necessarily out of fear, but out of respect. Her presence commands consideration because she has demonstrated that her energy and attention are not freely available for exploitation. Those who wish to engage with her must do so on terms that are mutually respectful. She attracts individuals who honor her autonomy and repels whose presence is harmful or draining. This selective energy investment creates a life filled with more meaningful, reciprocal, and fulfilling connections. It is not about isolating herself, but about curating her environment to support her well-being and growth. Ultimately, the process of establishing boundaries through self-healing creates a woman who is unreachable in the sense that her core, her energy, and her autonomy cannot be compromised. She is no longer accessible to manipulation, coercion, or control, not because she is defensive or unkind, but because she operates from a place of self-possession and clarity. Boundaries transform her interactions, her sense of self, and the very energy she projects into the world. They are the invisible framework that holds her together, the quiet declaration of her strength, and the embodiment of her self-respect. Through this careful and deliberate protection of her inner life, she becomes untouchable in the most profound and empowering way, fully aligned with her healed, authentic self. When a woman heals herself, the transformation that takes place is not limited to her present circumstances. It deeply reshapes how she interprets her past. The wounds she once carried, the betrayals, the losses, the moments of humiliation or abandonment become more than just sources of pain. Through the process of healing, she begins to see them as teachers, each scar a testament to resilience, each hardship a doorway to insight. Pain, once feared and resisted, is gradually recognized as a vital part of her growth. She learns to approach her memories not with bitterness or regret, but with understanding and curiosity, asking not how she was harmed, but what each experience has revealed about her strength, her values, and her capacity to endure. This reframing of past suffering allows her to reclaim the narrative of her life, taking ownership of her story rather than remaining defined by the actions or judgments of others. The first step in this transformation is acceptance. A healed woman does not deny the moments that caused her suffering. She does not attempt to erase them or minimize their impact, nor does she indulge in perpetual victimhood. Instead, she meets them with honesty and courage. She acknowledges the pain, the fear, and the loss, and she allows herself to fully feel what she once might have buried or ignored. By doing so, she releases the hold those experiences have over her. The emotional charge that comes from repression or denial diminishes when confronted with conscious awareness. Each memory, once a source of shame or regret, is reframed as evidence of her capacity to survive and persist. In this sense, healing transforms vulnerability into a kind of quiet power. Alongside acceptance comes reflection. She examines her experiences to uncover patterns, choices, and lessons embedded within them. She asks herself why certain events unfolded as they did, how her responses shaped the outcomes, and what wisdom can be gained from each encounter with hardship. Reflection is not an exercise in self-blame, but a tool for understanding. She begins to see how past suffering contributed to her emotional and spiritual development, and she learns to appreciate the subtle ways in which adversity has strengthened her resilience. Through this process, she cultivates insight that extends beyond personal growth, allowing her to navigate the present with greater awareness, compassion, and discernment. Her past no longer haunts her, it informs her, guiding her toward choices that honor her well-being and integrity. Healing also transforms the way she experiences regret and forgiveness. Regret, once a heavy burden that tethered her to the past, becomes an opportunity for learning and self-compassion. She understands that mistakes are not moral failings, but inevitable moments of human imperfection. In releasing guilt and embracing understanding, she liberates herself from cycles of self-punishment. Similarly, forgiveness, whether directed at herself or others, emerges not as a concession or a means to appease, but as an act of self-liberation. By forgiving, she releases the emotional weight that would otherwise impede her growth. Forgiveness is not about condoning past actions, it is about reclaiming her emotional space, ensuring that past harm does not dictate her present or her future. A significant aspect of this transformation is the recognition of resilience as a defining characteristic. Every trial she endured, every hardship she weathered, becomes proof of her capacity to withstand adversity. She sees that even in moments of despair, she found ways to survive, adapt, and continue moving forward. This recognition fosters profound self-respect. She begins to honor not only the strength that allowed her to endure, but also the courage it took to feel, to confront, and to heal. Her scars, both visible and invisible, are no longer symbols of weakness, but emblems of her tenacity and her ability to transform pain into wisdom. This shift in perspective fundamentally changes her relationship with herself, instilling a confidence that is both quiet and unassailable. The transformation of past pain into insight also enhances her empathy and connection with others. Having experienced suffering firsthand, she understands the complexity of human experience, the fragility, and the capacity for growth. Her compassion is informed by authenticity. She does not offer superficial sympathy, but a genuine understanding rooted in lived experience. This deep empathy allows her to engage with others without losing herself, to offer support without enabling harm, and to connect without compromising her boundaries. Her past, once a source of shame or isolation, becomes a bridge to greater relational wisdom, allowing her to navigate human connections with clarity, integrity, and discernment. Ultimately, by transforming pain into wisdom and scars into markers of resilience, she becomes untouchable in the true sense. She carries the strength of experience and the serenity of insight, moving through the world with a grounded presence that cannot be shaken by the judgments, betrayals, or disappointments of others. Her past, once a landscape of vulnerability, becomes the foundation of her power. In this way, healing is not simply about recovering from pain, It is about alchemy, the transformation of hurt into understanding, fear into courage, and suffering into freedom. Through this process, she achieves a form of inner sovereignty that makes her unreachable, not in distance, but in essence, a woman who navigates life on her own terms, guided by the profound wisdom earned through her journey. When a woman heals herself, one of the most striking transformations is the development of a magnetic presence, an energy that draws people toward her yet cannot be possessed or confined. This magnetism is not superficial charm or calculated charisma. It is the natural radiance that emerges from inner alignment and self-possession. As she heals, she becomes deeply attuned to herself, her needs, her values, her boundaries, and her desires. She no longer projects uncertainty or seeks external approval, and this certainty reverberates in every interaction. People are naturally drawn to authenticity, to the calm confidence that arises when someone has faced their fears, confronted their pain, and reclaimed their power. Her presence carries a quiet authority, an invisible force that commands respect without demanding it, creating an aura of strength and serenity that is both inviting and untouchable. This magnetism begins with self-awareness. She understands who she is not as a reflection of others' expectations, but as a complete, evolving individual. She knows her worth, and she carries it with ease, without arrogance or defensiveness. This self-knowledge allows her to move through the world without the constant need to explain, justify, or defend herself. Her energy is no longer dispersed in attempts to gain validation or approval. Every word she speaks, every action she takes, is rooted in choice rather than compulsion. In this way, her interactions carry depth and intention. People notice the authenticity and integrity in her presence, often without knowing why they are drawn to her. It is a subtle but undeniable influence, the kind that shifts dynamics in a room, creating space for respect and admiration. An essential part of this magnetic presence is emotional regulation. Healing teaches her to manage her emotions, not by suppressing them, but by understanding and integrating them. She feels deeply, but she does not react impulsively to every provocation or disappointment. Her emotional center becomes a steady anchor, allowing her to engage with the world thoughtfully rather than reactively. This stability is both comforting and compelling to those around her. People instinctively sense that she is reliable, that her reactions are measured, and that she operates from a space of clarity rather than chaos. Emotional regulation also means she is less susceptible to manipulation, coercion, or toxicity. Her presence cannot be hijacked by others' attempts to provoke or control her, further enhancing the untouchable quality of her energy. The magnetic quality of a healed woman is also rooted in self-respect. She has learned to honor her time, energy, and boundaries, and this respect extends naturally into her interactions with others. She does not offer her attention indiscriminately, nor does she allow herself to be treated as expendable. People are drawn to those who know their value and maintain their standards, because such individuals emanate a rare sense of integrity. This does not make her unapproachable or cold. Rather, it creates a presence that commands thoughtful engagement. Others are inspired to meet her on her terms, to approach with authenticity and sincerity, because they sense that superficiality or exploitation will not succeed. Her respect for herself sets the tone for how she is treated, creating relationships that are reciprocal, meaningful, and mutually nourishing. Another dimension of this magnetism is the confidence born from liberation. Healing allows her to release attachments to the past, to others' opinions, and to societal expectations that once constrained her. This freedom translates into an effortless confidence that is palpable. She no longer seeks to conform or please. She acts in alignment with her values and desires. This confidence is magnetic because it is genuine. It is not performative or dependent on external reinforcement. People are drawn to those who embody freedom and authenticity because such energy signals safety, integrity, and self-sufficiency. Her presence becomes a silent declaration that she is fully capable of navigating life on her own terms, and this declaration resonates with those around her, inspiring admiration and respect. The healing process also cultivates a depth that adds to her allure. She carries the wisdom of her experiences, the lessons learned from pain, the insights gained through reflection. Conversations with her feel substantive, her perspective is nuanced, her understanding empathetic yet grounded. This depth is magnetic because it is rare and genuine. People instinctively sense that she has lived fully, felt profoundly, and emerged stronger. They are drawn to the combination of strength and vulnerability, clarity and compassion, presence and mystery. Her energy is compelling not because it is loud or attention-seeking, but because it is complete, integrated, and unshakably centered. Finally, her magnetism lies in the paradox of being reachable yet unreachable. She is open to connection, kindness, and love, but she cannot be possessed, manipulated, or diminished. Her energy is not available for exploitation, and her attention is given intentionally. This balance creates a profound impact on those around her. She attracts without need, engages without desperation, and inspires without demand. She is both present and sovereign, a living embodiment of autonomy and grace. In this way, the magnetic presence of a healed woman is the natural outcome of inner alignment, self-respect, and emotional mastery. It is the energy of someone who has reclaimed herself, and it is a force that cannot be diminished, constrained, or controlled. When a woman heals herself, the culmination of her journey often manifests as an extraordinary sense of inner peace, a state of being that fundamentally alters how she experiences life. This peace is not the fleeting calm that comes from avoidance or denial, nor is it a superficial contentment dependent on circumstances. It is a deep, unshakable serenity born from understanding, acceptance, and integration of her experiences. Through healing, she confronts her pain, acknowledges her fears, and embraces her vulnerabilities. She learns to navigate the complexity of her emotions without being overwhelmed, to honor her needs without guilt, and to cultivate a sense of self that is independent of external validation. This inner peace transforms her from the inside out, allowing her to inhabit the world fully and freely, yet untethered by the chaos, judgment, or negativity of others. This peace begins with acceptance and acceptance of herself, her past, and the realities of life. She no longer fights the emotions or experiences that once caused turmoil. Instead, she allows herself to feel them, to examine them, and to learn from them. She comes to understand that pain and joy, loss and triumph, fear and courage are all integral parts of her human experience. By embracing this full spectrum, she stops resisting the flow of life and ceases to define herself by what has happened to her. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means acknowledging the truth of her experience and responding with awareness and intentionality. This conscious engagement with life, rather than avoidance or denial, lays the foundation for profound inner stability. A healed woman also cultivates a remarkable sense of self-reliance. She recognizes that her emotional and spiritual well-being are her responsibility alone. No longer does she depend on others to soothe, validate, or complete her. In doing so, she frees herself from the vulnerabilities that come with relying on external sources for stability. Her peace is autonomous. It arises from the intimate relationship she has cultivated with herself. She knows her boundaries, her needs, and her limits, and she protects them with care and consistency. This self-reliance is empowering. It allows her to navigate challenges without anxiety, to remain steady amid uncertainty, and to engage with life from a grounded, centered place. The freedom that comes from this inner authority is both liberating and magnetic, a presence that cannot be disrupted by the opinions or actions of others. Forgiveness plays a critical role in achieving this inner peace. Through healing, she learns to release the weight of resentment, anger, and bitterness, emotions that once tethered her to the past and to those who caused her harm. Forgiveness is not an act performed for others. It is a gift she gives herself. By letting go of grudges and emotional attachments to pain, she unburdens her heart and mind. This release creates space for clarity, compassion, and serenity. She no longer expends energy reliving past hurts or seeking retribution. Instead, she channels that energy toward growth, creativity, and connection. In doing so, she becomes emotionally light, her presence calm, and her interactions infused with authenticity and grace. Another essential aspect of her inner peace is the cultivation of discernment. She learns to differentiate between what deserves her attention and what does not, between what aligns with her values and what does not. She no longer allows herself to be swept into unnecessary conflicts, drama, or negativity. Instead, she approaches life with mindful intention, choosing where to invest her time, energy, and emotions. This discernment protects her equilibrium and ensures that her serenity is not easily disturbed by external turbulence. It also allows her to engage with the world consciously rather than reactively, maintaining clarity and composure even in situations that might have previously triggered chaos or distress. Her inner peace also manifests in her relationships. She interacts with others from a place of calm and understanding, free from the compulsion to control, impress, or appease. She can love and support without losing herself, offering connection without dependency. Because she is grounded in herself, she does not tolerate manipulation, disrespect, or exploitation. Her presence communicates safety and stability, allowing others to engage with her authentically, but never at the cost of her well-being. This equilibrium enhances the quality of her relationships, creating connections that are reciprocal, respectful, and nurturing rather than draining or conditional. The culmination of this healing process is a state of unshakable freedom. She is no longer confined by fear, resentment, or the need for external validation. Her mind and spirit have become a sanctuary, a space that cannot be invaded by negativity, chaos, or judgment. This freedom allows her to experience life fully, to pursue her passions, and to act with intention without attachment to outcomes or approval. Her energy becomes self-contained, a wellspring of stability and clarity that radiates outward. She is fully present yet untethered, engaged yet sovereign, alive in her own right. Through the cultivation of inner peace, a healed woman reaches a state of profound unreachability, not in distance or isolation, but in essence. Her presence, thoughts, and energy are anchored in autonomy and serenity. She cannot be swayed by manipulation, depleted by toxicity, or diminished by external pressures. In this way, inner peace is the ultimate expression of healing. It is a quiet but absolute sovereignty, a freedom that allows her to navigate life fully and fearlessly, embodying the strength, clarity, and grace that arise from having healed herself completely. When a woman heals herself, she undergoes a transformation that touches every part of her being, mind, body, and spirit. She reclaims her power, nurtures her emotional independence, and establishes boundaries that protect her energy and honor her worth. She transforms pain into wisdom, carrying her scars not as marks of suffering, but as emblems of resilience and insight. Her presence becomes magnetic, drawing people toward her without allowing them to possess or diminish her. Most profoundly, she cultivates an inner peace so deep and unshakable that she moves through life untethered, free, and sovereign. Healing is not merely recovery, it is alchemy. It is the process by which a woman becomes fully herself, unbound by the past, unaffected by the judgments of others, and untouchable in essence. In her wholeness, she becomes unreachable, not in isolation, but in the strength, clarity, and freedom that define her very being.